Hey, I think we're live.
Yeah, we are. Sorry I'm late. My computer says it's 11:02 and my phone says it's 11:10. So
So
I
this
was
is
running
future Steve saying to pass Don Marie. 5 minutes from now, it's going to be great.
behind. Yeah, fine. Hey, before we get into our meeting, we're supposed to be talking about our EDU vertical today. How's
hmm
your baking project going? And what have you
It's
made?
it's interesting. I'm learning the joys of precision in baking. So as long as you keep everything to the gram, it actually is pretty easy and it comes out pretty good. What have I made? I made bagels. I made a bunch of bagels. I eat them almost every morning now.
Do you
Um,
boil them?
what's that?
The bagels, do you boil them?
Yeah, yeah. You boil them before you bake them. Um, Started playing around with sourdough, so that was what got me started with this. As I saw a Instagram or YouTube short from a woman who did sourdough baking, and it just kind of got me curious. And I started making a starter, and then it just kind of snowballs from there. And now all of a sudden, I'm buying flour by the bulk at Costco. Um, what have we made? We've made bagels, we've made bread. I made some incredible French baguettes. Those were a big hit. Um, Made muffins yesterday that came out really good. My daughter is devouring them. So yeah, it's good.
Cool. Very
My
cool.
daughter and her roommate at school.
Oh yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's kind of get into it. So we were supposed to do this last week, and then I had a conflict to follow up after the EDU event. I was
hmm
able to listen into it. I thought it was really well done. And one of the things that just struck me was the depth of the content. I mean, we have tons and tons of EDU customers. Like SIPPIO has been really successful in that
hmm
vertical,
hmm
but our depth of understanding of those customers, I won't say I was surprised, but I was very pleasantly thrilled of the team. So I think that that's good that you're kind of starting to package it up and get it out to the partners. So I want to talk about what we're going to do with all that great content now,
hmm
and what some of your plans are for pushing it out to our partners and carriers for their own usage.
Yeah, so the chocolate and peanut butter mix of having a customer who wants a solution and having partners that are out there talking to those customers and understanding at a deeper level of what's important to them and what they're looking to do, I think is really where we're helping our partners find the bullseye. So to your point, we have a good, healthy slice of customers in the higher education space,
Yeah.
and they're doing it more than just migrating to Teams phone or to Zoom phone to cut costs. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's a big driver. But what really kind of makes this space interesting is, number one, the pricing models for customers who are using Microsoft to either add the phone entitlement, or most of the times they've already got it because
Right.
they've already upgraded to the E5 because of security entitlements or
Yeah.
whatever else. So if you're a partner, this is a market that you want to find. It's that white space in the market that we talk to partners about all the time, of these customers that have the phone system license, they just haven't turned it on yet. But the key to really helping partners have these discussions with the end customers is empowering them, not just with, hey, here's the telco discussion, and you can use soft phones or this and that, but really tying it back to the use cases across the campus that these solutions can really help universities modernize how they interact with their faculty, their staff, and their administrators to create a more responsive and a more aware campus. I think that really was, from some of the feedback I've got from some of our partners who watched the event, was really kind of the eye opener for them. Was, this is so much more than talking about cross connects and VoIP and this is really more, again, that outcome focused discussion that we help our partners have with their end customers.
Right. So the use cases, maybe you want to share that slide with us.
Yeah, sure.
The use cases, let's look at them and figure out with content that we have,
hmm
what potentially a partner could push out. to their customer or their prospect?
Yeah, so let's talk. Yeah, let's talk first. The biggest benefit of leveraging Teams or Zoom as a higher education campus is that I'm not talking past my students. That's what everybody thinks is the students, right? It's these pesky millennials. We all talk about them in the enterprise space, in the higher education space. The students are the challenge because they operate on their own terms. They don't use the corporate issued phones anymore. I mean, most campuses don't put phones you know, uh, in uh, in dorm rooms because they're not going to get used anyway. They have to keep some of them out there for E911 purposes, but the reality is they're little to no use.
Right.
But what they don't realize is the faculty is the same thing. The faculty is communicating on their own terms. As consumers, we have wildly different communications patterns and tools than most of today's modern IT groups can support. Most modern college universities, you go there and it's email. It's still dependent on email. Like when we've got a notification, we're going to send you an email. It's like I can't tell you the last time I checked my personal Gmail. So if I could have something important there, it may be sitting there and I'm not getting it because you didn't text it to me. You didn't communicate on, the terms that I have. So empowering a university to leverage a communications platform like Teams or Zoom with not just the voice entitlements, but with SMS, with mobility, with AI agents, and blending in some of that call center capability. You don't necessarily need a full blown contact center for every single department in your organization, but to be able to better triage customer or your students who are trying to, talk to somebody in financial aid, having the tools that are built into these platforms makes the work of serving your students and your faculty a lot less work because everything's just fully synergized. And
Yeah.
for partners, giving them the tools to understand how to have these discussions is of utmost importance. And I think this is really
Yeah,
where
and that's
we're
what I'm
serving
trying
both
to get
sides.
at. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, you're great at selling this, right?
Hmm.
But you can't s um,
Be everywhere.
on every partner's call when they have, an opportunity. So
Hmm.
how do they take the use cases and what do they do with it? Blogs, emails, tweets, like, what are you and your team creating to supplement the PowerPoint and the conversation and the training that you're doing that the partners can actually use?
Yeah. So we've
I
got a
want
whole batch of things
to share.
that
Yeah.
yeah, we've got a whole batch of things that are done, and we've got some plans that I'll share that we're working on.
Okay.
So let's talk about what's done. So most of our partners know we're so much more than just a margin provider. We do more than just make hardware and give you, margin to sell it to a customer. We really give you that full surround from marketing support to demand generation and investment to, during the sale engagement. So you may not necessarily be a specialist in higher education discussion, but that's okay. You can leverage the SIPPIO high touch sales team to go arm in arm with you with your customer to help you better articulate these solutions as you're learning this process. One of the things that I want to do or that we've done, let me finish what we've done, is we've created a whole series of content. So we've got a batch of blog posts that are available on our website. We've got a bunch of social posts. We have outbound email demand gen scripts that are written. So this way you can start to build your pipeline by talking to customers about this stuff. We're doing research into this space. So all the research is available for partners. We're looking at things like, top of mind things like how do I, lower my costs as a university by
Right.
moving to this and using that white paper. But also we're looking into, what type of programs are available to help a university offset this: government loans, government programs,
Yeah, that was
different types of yeah, different types of funding mechanisms that you can leverage as a university. We're making all of that research available for partners as well. We obviously, presented the webinar last week. Partners have the ability to take all of this content and either bring it to their customers branded as SIPPIO, or we don't require attribution. So if they want to reuse this content as much or as little of it as they want, under their own header with their own, messaging frameworks, they're more than welcome to do that. So all that stuff is available now on Partner Portal in the marketing library. So there's
Okay.
a new folder for vertical marketing. So you can find all that there as a partner. And where we're going is we're going to continue, creating content and continue doing the research and making that available to partners. But we're also going to be working on education opportunities. So it's kind of meta education about education. But we're going to be looking at doing partner enablement to help you understand these use cases and how to talk up to your end customers about outcomes in the higher education space, these use cases, instead of, again, that technical type of sale of, do you need PSTN? Do you have SIP? Do PBX is like, that is so antiquated discussions. You got to be able to talk about the financial benefits. You got to be able to talk about the student impact benefits, top to bottom. You've got to be able to cover that. So we're going to basically be empowering partners to have those discussions.
Okay. So you mentioned getting very precise to the gram in your baking earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things you've heard me say this to you like 10 times. One of the things I've been asking for forever is recipes.
Mm-hmm.
So, can we develop some recipe cards to give the partners to follow because they probably don't want to read through every blog and they may not know what blog goes with what LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I think of I don't know if you had granimals growing up where you
I
matched
did.
the
I
monkey
did.
head to the zebra body or
Mm-hmm.
or vice versa to match your outfits. Yeah. So that's what I'm kind of thinking is in terms of easy to follow so
Mm-hmm.
that they don't have to root around in it and try to figure it out, themselves. So if we could get a recipe card, I'd be thrilled out of my mind.
Yeah. So it supports both. So, some of the best granimals were the ones that you assembled that made no sense, but when you did them, it's like, this is a work of art. This is creative, right?
Yeah.
So for the partners that want to be creative, they can take as much or as little of our content and, again, blend it into their existing messaging frameworks. They can put it under their brand. But we've also built this as a campaign kit for partners to basically just take and run. It's that recipe, just follow the recipe, use the outbound email scripts, post this content to social, use this cadence. We really built over the last quarter. Um, we did a lot of test and adjust what was working, what wasn't, what resonated. So this way, when we give this to a partner, we know it's going to rise properly in the oven, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Good.
We're not kind of guessing like, hey, what happens if I add an extra 5 grams of salt to this recipe? What's it going to look like? Well, you try it. Let me know. We've tried baking these things up a few times until we know that we can't get it wrong. We didn't do it until the one time till we got it right. So partners will
Yeah,
be able to reap the benefits of that.
yeah, that's really good. Um, and I want to like highlight that and make sure that our partners understand that you're testing, you're making this
Mhm.
recipe over and over and over again before you're going on the cooking show, if you will,
Exactly.
because then they'll probably feel more confident in it that they know and they understand that. So I'm thinking back in time. This is pre you, so you may not know about it, but one of our very, very first customers at SIPPIO was Thames Valley up in Ontario, Canada.
Hmm.
They were an Avaya hosted IP office customer, and they, as an entire education system, were looking at leveraging the investment they had in Microsoft Teams. And
Hmm.
they needed to keep the black phones on the walls in the classrooms for different regulatory and compliance and insurance and all that reason. So they put out an RFP and they were looking for somebody that could link Avaya and Teams together. And everybody, and this is 2019 summer, said, oh, it couldn't be done. And somehow or another, one person found somebody that knew us and reached out to us. So we built an architecture to make it happen. And I know anybody can do it, these days, but it was 22,500 um, Avaya users. And then it turned into 8,000 Teams users. And one of the coolest use cases I ever heard was actually from the custodians. Um,
Hmm.
and the custodians there were no longer tethered to their little office that they had waiting for the phone to ring. They used to take turns like shifts.
Sure.
And they also cut down on the amount of overhead noise by having to page them if they weren't in their office when they were needed.
Sure.
And that little case study there is really what got SIPPIO on the map and started growing our business. And it's also where we came up with the concept of SIPPIO Bridge. And I
Hmm.
think it's super, super important that our partners can speak to and be able to market that intelligently, that you're not necessarily asking a customer to move completely away from their landline phone system, but you're showing them how potentially they can tie them together or just tie them together for a certain period of time or in certain like instances or cases. So what can we do to kind of amplify that use case and really push the concept of bridge, because I think bridge is probably less scary to a customer.
Yeah, and for higher education universities, and I've said this for a long time, that moving to the cloud is a journey. It's not a jump for a lot of organizations, especially the larger higher education institutions. So, what we've done is we've given the partners the toolkits to serve a higher education customer no matter where they are on that journey. So if they're ready to make that full jump, like our friends at Roseman University were, we were able to help them by basically offering a fast, easy, and flexible solution, Azure native, that enabled them to just rapidly turn on service, but also to do it in a gradual, granular migration approach. They took the approach of find your influencers within the campus, run a pilot, get them on board, do a feedback loop with them, and then start migrating department by department and let the momentum kind of drive to the end state. SIPPIO Connect is a great solution for those partners that want to serve their customers who are ready to make that final jump across the canyon. But for a lot of customers, that's a bridge too far, so to speak, right? Like, I can't do this overnight. The nights of the days of a Friday night cutover are long gone. We're talking about multiple campuses in some cases, reduced IT staff. So, trying to do everything in one cutover is just impossible. So what we've done is we've created the Scipio Bridge offer. Like to your point, we've seen more and more of these where we were doing them on a customer by customer basis, and we saw enough demand in the market to where we productize this. So for customers who want to live in this kind of transitional world where I've got, maybe I'm keeping voice with on-premise infrastructure. I've got contracts that I need to sweat out. I've got a high amount of analog that I'm not quite ready to figure out what I'm going to do with, or for whatever reason you need to keep some part of voice on premise. We can deliver the voice to the customer's premise PBX, whether it's an Avaya, a Mitel, a Cisco, whatever. But then we can also add more capabilities to their Teams or Zoom deployments. So even though voice is staying on an on-premise legacy phone system, they can have text messaging inside of Teams with their one number. So this way, I'm more responsive even if I'm not sitting at my desk. You can put some users on Teams or Zoom and keep a chunk of the users on premise. So whether that's part of a gradual migration or whether it's a permanent type solution where you've got so much integrated into that on-prem PBX, it's like a spider web, and if you blow hard enough on it, it's going to just kind of fall apart. So I just don't want to touch that, but I want to move. I'm not going to make that handcuff the other 80% of my business that I can just move to Teams and get the benefits from. Scipio Bridge is the answer for that. So we
Yeah.
empower those partners to have that discussion, that outcome-based discussion, not just here's the destination that you want to go to, but also offer that customer, here are the routes to that destination. You can go the direct route with Scipio Connect, just go straight there, or we can kind of take the back roads. We'll avoid the highways, we'll avoid the traffic. It might take a little bit longer, but it's a more scenic ride for you, Mr. Customer, giving the partners who are serving higher education the toolkits to meet the customer where they are instead of trying to force a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah. Okay. So we've given them the marketing materials and they can access that. What about the next step of getting them ready to have those conversations? Have we thought about doing like an assessment or a guide or a step by step of where they should start, how they should find the influencers, what they should be looking at, etc. I know that we have a process that we've done over and over and over again, and some of our teams, our pre-sales teams, probably could just do it in their sleep. But if we could take that and craft it into some type of a guide or an assessment, I think that would be the next logical step.
It's almost like you know what we're working on. I got to double down on security in our group. So we're working on both
I did not know.
self-use tools.
Okay.
So, to your point, assessments and different kind of structures, but we're also working on enablement, so we can actually train our partners on how to, kind of operate this way, to basically, teach a person to fish versus just giving them a fishing pole, so to
Right.
speak. We're going to be doing both. So we'll have, some collateral. It'll be available on the marketing library once it's finished, for partners to download. So this way you can have that structured discussion with a customer in the higher education space. But we'll also be putting together enablement sessions for our partners to learn, from soup to nuts, how to do this from beginning to end.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. If we can do that, then like you said, we can feed many. But if our partners want or need the help, I think we
Hmm.
should also offer them access to the pre-sales team. Maybe if they do one or two together, then they're off to the races to do their own after that. If it's a partner that's newer to the EDU space or something like that, I
Yeah,
just make sure that we're really hand holding them if they need it so that they're not afraid and not wanting to go down this because they don't have any experience in EDU. We had
it's
none
a
when
great
we
idea.
started. Now we're like masters of it.
Yeah, it's a great idea. We'll definitely jump on that. I mean,
Get
partners.
Patrick and Rob and Ted out there.
Hmm. It's a great idea.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So when do you think we could get the recipe, and when do you see the assessments being delivered? And then what's next after that?
The campaign kits are actually available on Portal right now. So if you go to Partner Portal and you click on the marketing library, in the new, you'll see it's labeled new verticals folder. You'll find under higher education all of the content there. That's everything you need, to run that. And we're going to continue adding, content to that. So we've got a series of blogs that we're going to be writing, about, the higher education space and the actual, use cases, and do a little bit deeper dive in each one of them. Those will be posted to Portal for partners to use. The enablement sessions are underway. We're hoping to have those out shortly. So you'll be able to either schedule an in-person or a virtual enablement session, or leverage some of the content that'll be there. That'll hopefully be posted in the next, few weeks.
Okay. All right. Very good. Yeah, and I'll give Neil a heads up so that he can talk to the team and know that they might be getting requests to assist. And then we should also make sure the sales team is kind of advertising or soliciting this directly in partner one-on-ones, especially if they know the partners working in the EDU space.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And education is just the first vertical. So
Yeah.
we're working on education, and then we're going to be adding in, I think legal is going to be our next vertical. We've got a bunch of customers there, Friedberg PC, for example. So we've got a lot that we're, bringing into market to help our partners go out there and find that white space in the market, find
Yeah.
the customers that are ready to have this discussion about a transition to Teams or Zoom, and to give them the tools to, like I said, from soup to nuts, to go out and market it, to go out and build some demand gen, to help you during the sale with a co-sell motion, and then to help you post-sale with implementation and client success. We really want to be a good partner to our partners. So we give you all the tools.
Good. I'm going to put a third one on your list
Sure.
just because it's a personal interest. We have that art museum.
Yeah.
I would love to see something built around that. That's probably an area that a lot of people don't think of.
Yeah.
I'd love to see SIPPIO at the Louvre or
I got to take an on-site trip to that one.
get the case study.
I got to go out, do an on-site survey. in order to get that one in.
Yeah, but think about how many museums there are, like, globally. There's
Yeah, yeah,
tons and
absolutely. Nonprofits in general. I mean, we're having discussions with a few different nonprofits, and there's a lot of opportunity because the cost savings of migrating to these platforms really matters, especially to a nonprofit.
yeah,
The ability to lower your total cost of ownership by 140% by getting rid of that legacy, Avaya stuff and everything else is massive. So yeah, it's absolutely a vertical we're keeping an
I
eye on.
I heard the funniest thing yesterday. So when that same deal, that Thames Valley deal that we were talking about, I had
Hmm.
went to Microsoft, back in that summer, was trying to get some support for that opportunity. I also went to Abaya too, by the way, and both of them ignored me and felt like they didn't want to hear about the other one because it was competitive and it was probably never going to go anywhere. And then yesterday on Microsoft's community call,
Hmm.
somebody brought up, "Oh, let's go after." One of the Microsoft people said, "Oh, let's go after all the Avaya stuff." And I'm like, 5.5 years later, almost 6 years later. Okay,
Well, they're retrenching and they're kind of abandoning a lot of the market, so there's a lot of opportunity out there
yeah,
as they've kind of retrenched and focused on a certain segment of upper end customers. There's a
well,
lot of opportunity for partners to be talking about a transition to something like Teams or Zoom.
right. And it doesn't even have to be a full transition. And I'm not,
Mhm.
as biased, although Microsoft has a big place in my heart for a lot of reasons. I don't care if they get rid of Avaya. They could just tie them together like we did with Bridge. And what's
Absolutely.
interesting about that strategy, if you're a partner that has an Avaya base, is you can kind of double dip for some period of time by keeping
Hmm.
that over here and putting this over here,
Hmm.
and not necessarily push, for a full migration. So it can be pretty crafty and get both sides of it. So,
Yeah.
all right.
As soon as you start building a bridge to your customer's future, the better off you're going to be because somebody else will do it if you don't. So if you're a partner, it really gives you an opportunity to better serve your customer, but also to protect your revenue base. So yeah, win-win.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well,
All
thanks for
right.
the time. Sorry we're running over because I was late because my computer now says it's 11:31, so it's still 6, 7 minutes off of the
This is
reality.
Steve from the 6 Minute Future. It's going to be great.
Okay.
We're going to close this out.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate the time today.
Sounds good. I'll see you in Teams.
Okay. Bye.